fire department. Really busy along Melrose here. Just a block or two away was the nail salon. Here is this shop, but we're moving into a better spot for you. And I don't know if you were able to see the name on that.
No, I can't. It's a yellow sign. It looks like I can't make it out, but I'm wondering if it's more than one business.
It looks like it is. And here's a tighter shot for you if you can make it out. Doc Martens. Okay. So it's a Doc Martens a shoe store maybe, but it's a quite a large building. As I come out, you see the smoke coming out of that structure, and we'll see what the fire department does. I'm going to try to listen to their frequencies to see if I can hear them chattering about that fire and how they're going to handle it, because there's still a lot of protesters here in the area and moving in and out of the stores. It's unknown how this fire started, but taking a look through the front here, and it's hard to tell if those stores were looted or if the fire department had to just make access themselves. They're making access inside. That's a good sign. They're going to fight it from the inside, at least for now. A lot of smoke being vented out through the roof.
And it looks like a different business, possibly. I don't know. I can't tell. I just see different signs there. It's really hard to tell what's going on there and what the business might be.
Yeah, and you know, Kathy and Gil, as I look at this, all those stores are connected there.
They're
I mean,
close,
you're
yeah.
talking about something that runs a city block almost. And if this fire gets in the roof, correct me if I'm wrong, typically it runs through the attic. It could take out an entire block.
It could. In fact, it may have already spread to the other buildings. It's hard to tell. There is quite a bit of smoke coming out of it, out the front and out the vents on the roof. So it's hard to say if it's skipped over into the other businesses there. It's blocked by smoke to the east there. You see that stretch of businesses there are really blocked. You can see some of the signs there where fire has not gotten to that yet. But this is a concern definitely for the firefighters and certainly for the police to get in this area and try to bring an end to this looting that's going on, because this could be a result of such a activity.
Yeah, it could be vandalism. It could be, we don't know right now at this point, but they were still working on that fire at that nail place just down the street. And then Gil, you panned down and went over to this area, and now we see from your cameras that this is on fire. And it's just crazy. We're just coming up at 9 o'clock now. We've been under this curfew for 1 hour, and we're seeing looting and fires all up and down this area.
You know,
yeah, that's right. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say we're having community leaders weighing in on this all day. We just heard from Karen Bass. She's a U.S. representative. She's a prominent African-American politician. She represents the Culver City, South L.A. area. She says tonight, if you're mad, if you're distraught, if you're angry, if you're hurting, fight back against the system that killed George Floyd. Do not destroy our communities and our neighborhoods.
Yeah, the sad part about destroying the neighborhood is that it takes forever to recover.
To rebuild.
Yeah, these are businesses, and it's just nobody wants to see this. It's tough on the fire department, it's tough on the police department, and it destroys the community.
We're hearing now that this is Tony K on Melrose. It's a shoe store also. So that's who we're getting word from our assignment desk. Kevin LaBeach giving me that information now.
Tony K?
Tony K is what the name of the business is on Melrose. And so the fire department dealing with all that smoke, a lot of smoke coming out of this building. I'm surprised we're not seeing flames through the roof right now. We don't see any fire department on the roof per se right now, but it's unclear exactly what they have inside. I'm trying to listen to what they're dealing with in there, but heavy smoke coming out of this business.
Yeah, it's really smoky.
Yes.
You're right, and no flames. It's just pouring out.
Hey, Gil,
Absolutely.
Can you widen out your shot just a little bit and let us see what the traffic situation looks like around there? I mean, so you're on Melrose, right?
Yes, this is Melrose. We're looking from the north and towards the east. So you're seeing some of the traffic here that's westbound on Melrose having to turn around because the fire department has it completely shut down. They're not going to be able to access any further westbound. They're going on the streets northbound there. But look at how much smoke is pouring out of this fire. It's unbelievable. There might be more structures there that are on fire. It's hard to say it from this angle.
Yeah, and we can't see signs at this point. All we know is that, like Colleen was saying, all of these businesses are kind of next door to each other, so it could easily spread. from one business to another, but they're focused right on this area where we're not seeing flames, but we're seeing a huge amount of smoke coming out.
You know, as we continue to watch the picture here, I want to bring in a friend of ours, Errol Southers. Errol, are you with us? Errol Southers?
This is Tim Williams.
Oh, Tim. Hi, how are you? It's Colleen Williams. I remember you from the other night. You used to be with the LAPD, correct?
That's correct.
That
is correct.
So as you look at this, and we're coming up on 9 o'clock here. So what's the playbook for the LAPD at this point? I mean, you've got this fire, raging fire in the middle of Melrose here. You've got looters out there. What do you tell your people if you're commanding the LAPD?
Well, the thing is, you know, Michael Moore, he came on the air a little bit earlier, and they mobilized their entire department the first time since the riots about 20 years ago. And this is, you know, you try to prioritize the locations you have. Here you have buildings being burned, and he's trying to, you know, they have made some arrests, they have cornered some looters, and they're trying to, you know, quell the fire, save property, and at the same time maintain peace. So it's a coordinated effort between the fire department and LAPD, and the thing is that you have to try to get the firefighters in, get them protection to do what they need to do, and at the same time address other areas in the city.
Tim, with your background in law enforcement, how do you enforce the curfew at the same time?
Well, that's a $1,000 question. You know, the thing is that the curfew has been set. It's from I believe it's from 8:30 to 8:30 to 5:30 in the morning, and if people have been notified, if they are violating the curfew, then you affect their arrests. And the thing, you get the individuals off the street so that you can take back the streets and do what needs to be done. It's a handful. He's trying to maintain the entire city with 9,000 police officers. You don't have 9,000 police officers out there at the same time. They work 12-hour shifts. So you have 4,500 out there at one time, and then they're relieved, and another 4,500 go out.
Tim, 30 years with the LAPD. I suspect you were here in 1992.
I was.
What would you tell the people who are on the front line right now, given your experience?
Well, the thing is that I've seen what has been done, and there is more of an organized approach now than it was back in 1992. I was there at the genesis of it, and it was not well organized. We weren't prepared, and now there seems to be a more of a preparation. But there is the issue of resources. You know, you have the sheriffs there who are assisting also in unincorporated areas, and then you have to your north you have Beverly Hills Police Department as well. I understand that the governor or the mayor of LA has asked for National Guard to come in, and that's being requested. And
yeah, it's not only requested, they should be here by midnight, we're told.
Yes, exactly. And so that will add about 800 or 900 more additional individuals to the city, and then there's the complication of coordination of command between the military and local law enforcement. So that's the issue that has to be dealt with as well.
And our investigative reporter was explaining to us how law enforcement trains for almost every scenario that you're going to see in a situation like this. How do you do that? How do you train for instances where you don't know what's going to happen?
Well, you train, and there's different scenarios that are put forth to the officers in the training, and you have you can see that the training has been executed. You know, I see what's been executed, and I can tell the training has been done. And I saw one scene where there were some looters on the street, and they were boxed off between lines on either end of the street, and without, from what I saw, without any undue excessive force, and that's a coordination of effort. That's training, and that's what training looks like.
And I'm glad you brought up the excessive force, because we were also talking about how do officers handle things being thrown at them? I mean, they were tossing gas bombs into the
M80s
crowd,
as well, Kathy.
and they're throwing them back. And you know, you've got people yelling at you. How do they deal with that and not get agitated and escalate the situation?
Well, you're trained to de-escalate. You're trained to when you put yourselves in these situations, you're going to have these type of situations. You're trained not to respond to the pockets of things that are coming at you, but to respond to directions and commands of the squad leadership, and to affect the mission that's in front of you. And again, it takes training. You know, I've been in the military and I've been in LAPD, and the training. You don't let the situation control you. You control the situation, and that's what we've seen here so far.
You talk about the LAPD better prepared and being more coordinated than they were, in 1992. But on the flip side, couldn't that also be said about the protesters and the looters out there with social media? Don't they seem a bit more organized than you remember?
Well, what I see is a coordinated effort of some factions that are out there. And this is not only with Los Angeles, but all across the country. I've seen folk that you would not normally see leading or leading in this insurrection. I call it insurrections. Mm-hmm. And it's there's more than going on. There's more behind the scenes that needs to be looked at than what you see going on here. So seems like to be an orchestrated. It seems to me, and I've been in this business going on 46, past 46 years, going on 47, across the country, and that's bothersome.
One person arrested tonight was found to have a handgun. How does that change the picture for officers on the street?
Well, when you're out there, you don't know who's who and what's what. You don't know what people are having. You just pray that you can get, you can affect the rest. You can keep the peace without anyone getting hurt and the officers not getting hurt. When you have this, you don't know what you're going to find when you arrest people. So the thing is that it's an issue of training. It's an issue of coordination of resources, and that's what's important.
And
that's what you have seen.
Are you trained to read the crowd, to read what they might do next? How much of that goes into play?
Well, you pay attention to what's going on out there. You have your squad leaders paying attention, and they're getting directions from other higher ups in the command to certain concerns and certain issues that need to be addressed right away. If you see some folk that are armed, you bring the proper resources in. When I say proper resources, folk like SWAT and things of that nature, people who have training in that type of for those type of environments. But again, you assess the situation, you respond, you don't let the situation control you. You control the situation.
And Tim, we heard from the mayor today as many as 500 people were arrested last night. Most of them got citations. Only a handful were kept in jail. Most got citations and were kicked loose today. And do you have any doubt that they're back out there on the street? And does that bother you?
Well, that's just these are citable offenses. These hopefully it's like, again, you can pack the jails out until you can't have no more room anymore, but you cite them and if they're out there again, then that citable offense may not be a citable offense. It may be a booking offense because obviously the site didn't work. And you go from there. But the thing is that you make sound judgments. You put them. You make their arrests. You cite them out, and they'll have their day in court. And at some point in time, when the courts open up after the pandemic and after what's going on within all the cities across the country.
Well, you have a lot of experience, and you've been through similar things before. How confident are you that we will have any control by 5:30 in the morning?
Well, it ebbs and flows. You get people, it's like anything else. People get tired and they go home. And then you see them congregating again late morning, early afternoon, and into the evening. And so the thing is that, as you deal with this thing on a day in, a day out basis, hopefully you want to deal with it too much longer. But as long as you're dealing with it and you gain the resources that you need, identify the leadership or the agitators that are there, deal with that, then you gain ground. You want to gain ground, from day to day, and making sure that businesses aren't destroyed, making sure communities aren't destroyed, and those who are doing it get detained and arrested.
Tim, when we spoke on Wednesday, that's when the group had moved up on the 101 freeway, just shy of Alameda there. They took over both sides of the freeway, and they had some problems with CHP officers. They moved in on the cars. Somebody broke out the back window with a skateboard. Another one was a piece of board. How problematic is that for officers in looking at video a couple days down the road and trying to track these folks?
Well, that's a problem. We're supposed to be doing to the pandemic. We're supposed to be wearing masks, but we're not supposed to be out there tearing up our environment. I believe in peaceful demonstrations, but I don't believe in tearing up, your environment and where you have to live and shop and eat. You do the best you can. There may be some cameras where individuals were caught prior to putting on their masks. You could identify them by clothing they're wearing and so on and so forth. And you may be able to get some identification from there. But it's a totality of everything. You have to see the genesis of where the demonstration started and where they got onto the freeway, and then you go from there. And it's an investigative process.
And you were working in 1992 when you saw the looting and the fires and businesses destroyed. How does it affect you seeing this tonight on a different level? Of course, a different situation, not the same thing, but how does it affect you emotionally?
Well, the thing is that the incident with George Ferguson, George Floyd, I'm sorry,
Yes.
that whole situation bothered me. I've seen a lot during my career, and seeing this was at the top of egregiousness. So that bothered me. To the point where the entire nation was bothered by that. You even had chiefs of police come out, and which is a total rarity in my experience and in my career, coming out criticizing the action of a police officer to the point where they suggest that he be arrested. So the thing is that it's not a new phenomenon, but it is a phenomenon that's caused the consternation of the whole nation on the heels of people being sequestered for almost a month and a half or 2 months on this COVID-19 issue. And then you look at the leadership in our government and everywhere and everything else, and it has a cascading effect. And what we see is I'm very concerned. Not only do we have the pandemic, but now we have a country that is the infrastructure of the country is dwindling because of what we're seeing here.
Tim, we're looking at a picture right now. I hate to interrupt you, but I want you to walk us through it. This is at Pico and La Brea, I believe. This is a Target store. There were reports of looting here. You see a line of officers outside. What's the protocol on this?
I'm looking at it now.
Okay.
Okay, I'm looking at it now. Go ahead. What's your question?
So what's the protocol here? They just rolled up on scene, and will they wait for the looters to come out? Will they go into the store? What do you do at this point?
Well, if you notice that they are They are getting in formation in certain areas of egress and ingress, and they will be taking directions from the command staff as to what to do.
It looks like they arrested someone at the top of the screen there.
Yeah, I see that there. And these individuals may have been on the outside or coming out of the store, and they're being ushered over to the arrest team where people are designated to arrest individuals. Now, everyone has a job to do. One individual, maybe one group apprehends them and they take them over to another group of officers whose job is to arrest them, get information, and do what needs to be done as far as citing if that's what they're going to do. So it has to be a coordination of effort. You don't see individuals working independently by themselves, but you see a team effort in getting the things done.
Well, Tim, we certainly thank you for your expertise. Tim Williams, LAPD officer for over 30 years and military veteran as well. Hopefully we will not have to speak with you again this evening, but
well, if you
it's
need
possible
to, you have
we
my
will.
number.
All right, we certainly do.
All right.
Tim, thank you again. We want to bring
You're
in.
quite welcome.
All right, we want to bring in Megan Reyes right now. She's in News Chopper 4 Alpha. This is that building that was on fire just a couple of minutes ago. Megan, it looks like it's fully engulfed at this point.
Fully engulfed, fire through the roof right now. You can see the challenge that firefighters have right now. They are concentrating and trying to save the buildings next to it. They're probably going to go into what they call a defensive mode right now. This is a Starbucks right here to the right of it. To the left of it, we have a lot of other small businesses. So fire department's definitely going to try to save some of these buildings, but you could see the challenges that they have ahead of them. This is the 7500 block of Melrose Avenue. Started as a small fire. Took firefighters a while to get there. LAPD wanted to make sure they could secure the scene, and right now this is what happens. You have good intentions from earlier today. You had peaceful protests, and unfortunately now we see a situation like this. You could see that fire just blazing through that roof right now. Very intense situation here.
It really did just explode. We were watching it earlier, a lot of smoke, and now we're seeing a lot of flame coming out of that. And Megan, you brought up a good point, because the firefighters can't just roll up on the scene and start taking care of this. They have to first go with the police, and they have to rope off the area, make sure it's safe. So that's one level of work they have to do, and it just takes more time for them to get there. That could have caused this fire to spread even more. And the other thing I'm thinking is there are businesses on either side.
Right, and that's what they may end up doing, is going in what they call a defensive mode. But hopefully there's a firewall in these buildings here to protect the adjacent buildings here. So you have a couple of buildings here that's in the path of the fire. Fire department's going to do everything they can. And, you know, resources are really stretched. Kathy, News Chopper 4 Alpha, we were over downtown Los Angeles. We saw multiple rubbish fires. They have their hands full in downtown LA with a bunch of looting areas near 7th and Main and Broadway. So there's a lot of activity there. They do have multiple small rubbish fires. People are lighting trash cans on fires in downtown, but nothing of this magnitude. You can see the intensity of this fire. It is just consuming this entire building. Firefighters, looks like they may even have to pull back here because of those intense flames right now.
Makes you wonder what is fueling this fire.
You know, I was just thinking the same thing. I don't know what's in this building here. I heard there was a couple of small businesses here.
Tony K Shoe Store, I believe, is what, there you see on the outside, Tony K Shoe Store.
Yeah, so if you got a shoe store there, you can imagine all the products in there, all the cardboard boxes and everything that is fueling that fire that is just really rapidly consuming this building, and the buildings next to it. The radiant heat is what's going to be an issue there. The fire definitely may start with these buildings just because they're so close together right now. So firefighters are still battling this right now. This is, again, the 7500 block of Melrose here as they are dealing with this fire. One of many fires here erupting here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, we saw the nail salon or nail shop that was on fire earlier. They were still about 30 or 40 minutes ago. I don't know what the situation is now, but now we're seeing this fire here at the shoe shop. This is the largest fire I think that we have seen tonight. other than the little spot fires. And of course, earlier, several patrol cars, LAPD patrol cars, were set ablaze as well. So the fire department has been busy taking care of a lot of those fires. But this one just huge, as we're seeing plumes of smoke and that huge fireball right there in the middle of the store, which we believe, if we're looking at the sign, is some type of a shoe store there on Melrose.
Yeah, that's right. And Kathy, I just also want to add, you know, I look out the everywhere. I'm seeing law enforcement responding with their lights and sirens. So they are just going to multiple areas. They're hearing about looting. They're hearing about small rubbish fires. So it is just a chaotic situation. And just moments ago, somebody pointed a green laser at the helicopters as well. And, you know, you have law enforcement helicopters up here trying to direct officers down below into a safe direction to try to disperse some of these crowds. And now they have to worry about somebody with the laser shooting at the helicopters. That can be a very dangerous situation, not only for the police, but also for the media helicopters here as well.
Absolutely. On a normal night, Megan, we would be covering that as an entire story. It's illegal and very dangerous, as you said. That could be a story for us, and yet it's just part of the scenario we're seeing, where we are seeing looting, outright looting, just people smashing windows and taking items out of the store. And we're seeing fires set in various areas. We've had officers injured as well. I've seen some protesters earlier in the day who were down in the street because we kept seeing people running. And of course, you're going to have injuries. So really, it's just been an incredible afternoon into the evening. And now, as we are approaching 9:30, we are well into the curfew that was put into place at 8 o'clock. And now we have word that the National Guard will arrive at midnight. 100 National Guardsmen being deployed to this area. What we heard from our investigative reporter, Eric Leonard, was that they would help just to take up some of the slack right now, because we have these officers on 12-hour shifts. And Colleen, you've been here at night covering some of these demonstrations. They are taxed.
Well, it's interesting because they typically ratchet up at night, and the National Guard is going to be here to provide force protection and security. That, of course, according to the sheriff. Now, I want to ask Megan, because you've just flown through the area, you had to put down to refuel, and then you turned around and came right back. So you've got a broader picture of more than just this fire right now. What did you see on your way in? Are there still protesters out there? Are there more fires out there? What can you tell us?
Colleen, right now it's hard to see the protesters unless if we're exactly over the area because it's nightfall, but they are out there. I'm listening to LAPD, and it's really getting busy in downtown Los Angeles with looting. We did hear about an officer who was injured near Spring and 7th. Somebody threw a rock, possibly a broken wrist, according to the scanner traffic. So what I'm seeing is just a lot more commotion. And as I said, as I look out the window in every direction, 360 degrees here, I'm seeing police officers with their lights and sirens responding to multiple calls. We do see a lot of smoke in the air from earlier fires. We did see a couple of fires in downtown Los Angeles. This one here on Melrose Avenue. This is the biggest fire we have yet to see. It's a very unfortunate circumstances. What started off as a peaceful protest in Pan Pacific Park today, people were out there protesting, and unfortunately a few individuals just took it to this level, and this is why there is a mandatory curfew. But unfortunately, we're just seeing a lot of mayhem down below. And again, as Kathy said, it normally would be a story we would focus on, getting lasered by an individual. The green laser lit up the helicopter here in News Chopper 4 Alpha. That is pretty bright. Great job here by our pilot, Derek Bell, just maintaining the, the stability of this helicopter. But that's just, we're just seeing a lot of pandemonium and a lot of chaos below. And those police helicopters, they are relaying information down to the officers below. They want to make sure those officers are safe. So when people have those lasers and they're pointing them at the helicopter, That's a very dangerous situation there for the pilots as well as for the media helicopters. So we're all in this together right now. They're trying to make sure those firefighters are safe there. We don't see any immediate crowd here. So fortunately, these firefighters can concentrate on this building right now as we're watching. It looks like they are starting to get a little bit of an upper hand. We still see a lot of fire on the roof, but the good news, it's not spreading to any of these local businesses right next to it.
It looks like they've really confined it so that the rest of the businesses, and as we said earlier, these are all connected. This is almost an entire city block. You've got the Starbucks on one side, you've got the shoe store, and then you that we're looking so forward, I'm sure, to opening and getting back to some sense of normalcy here, and then all of a sudden this happened. Megan, we're going to continue to look at your picture here. We're going to bring in Eric Leonard once again, who's been talking with people at the LAPD, the Sheriff's Department. Eric.
Good evening. The word that we're getting from department commanders is that they feel like they've made some significant progress in clearing out a number of the demonstrators and reducing the risk to the public, although it's really hard to feel that when you watch the pictures that we've been seeing all night tonight. The number of people that the police officers out on the Fairfax area are confronting or having to interact with has dropped dramatically, they tell us, in the last hour or so. We're now thinking it's more in the neighborhood of several or many dozens rather than the hundreds that we saw earlier. Nonetheless, the department seems to be addressing more and more serious problems, even though there are fewer and fewer people wandering around on the streets. Certainly the fires have presented a whole new issue for them to deal with, and then certainly the looting has captured the attention of dozens and dozens of officers down there. The sheer exhaustion amongst the people working the LAPD, we're told, is a huge, huge factor. You have many of the people who are working in crowd control tonight are the same groups of officers who were working almost all night last night in downtown LA, and a good portion of them were the same group of officers who were working Thursday night. And so that is perhaps part of what's behind this decision to try to bring in more outside help, specifically the National Guard, to try to relieve some of the demands on the department, not only so that certain groups can go home and get some rest, but also so the LAPD can restore its core services in other parts of the city, responding to radio calls, doing general patrol work, those things that had to be shut down while they focused all of this attention on this area tonight.
And Eric, you were saying that they can also bring in officers from other cities. We heard some information about officers coming in from the Inland Empire, so this could be the Sheriff's Department. They can call other resources locally, maybe Ventura County.
That's right. There's long-standing mutual aid agreements between most of the police departments in Southern California. At some levels, it's coordinated through the state of California. Everybody relies on one another when a particular incident overwhelms the local agency. This happens constantly when they're dealing with massive wildfires in the fire department. This happens with contingency planning for big natural disasters. So the plans are in place to do it. It was a little unexpected tonight from what we've heard. That was part of the delay in getting additional people from outside areas. But they're well set up to do this. It sounds to us from the contacts we've had in local law enforcement that the expectation simply wasn't there, that the events of tonight would grow in the way they did, really exponentially in maybe the 2 to 3 to 4 o'clock hour this afternoon. And people have, from all sorts of different agencies, have been scrambling to keep up. As you pointed out, it's not just the local agencies that help one another. It's also neighboring counties, Ventura County, San Bernardino, Riverside County, Orange County, where they have less local unrest to deal with, certainly have the ability to send people out here. What's unusual, though, is that rarely is it a department the size of the LAPD that's asking for help. After all,